Hi, in this video we're going to look at solving equations for functions and also an introduction on the first half of inverse functions. So let's dive straight in. We've got this function over here for f of x, and we want to solve f of x equals to 22. You'd solve this just like an ordinary equation. We want f of x to be 22, so I replace f of x with 22, and now I've got this equation over here which says 22 is 3x plus 1. And I'll solve that same way we solve an ordinary equation. I want to get x's on one side and numbers on the other side. So opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. Then you divide 3 by 3. So here x will be 7. And that's it. Okay, I'll go through a couple more examples like that. So here we're solving f of x equals to 19. So we can say 19 equals 7 minus 2x. To solve this, each way to do it properly is probably to get this 2x minus 2x across to the other side. So opposite of minus 2x is plus 2x. So we've now got 2x plus 19 equals 7. Opposite of plus 19 is minus 19. 7 take away 19 is minus 12. And then we've got 2x, so we then need to halve that. So x will be minus 6. Okay, just one more example like that. So here I want to solve f of x equals to 89. So we know that 4x minus 11 will equal 89. Opposite of minus 11 is plus 11. So therefore 4x is 100. And when opposite of times by 4 is divide by 4. So x is going to be 25. Okay, now looking at inverse functions. So an inverse function will undo the effect of its function. So if this function doubles x, my inverse function would halve x. Here, if I had a function that takes 4 away from x, the inverse function would add it back on. The way we denote inverse function is with this minus 1 here. So this minus 1 means inverse function. Let's go through how we can work it out. So the best way to do it, as in the way that will work for all types of questions, is to treat this as a change in the subject question. So rather than write f of x, we're going to write y, just because it's a bit easier to work with the y rather than f of x. And in order to invert this function, we're going to change its subject. We're going to make x equals. In order to do that, we need to rearrange it. So I want to get x by itself, as if I was solving it like a few minutes ago. So first, opposite of plus 2 is going to be minus 2. We've got 3 times x, opposite of timesing by 3 is dividing by 3. So now if I divide both sides by 3, I have this. I've now changed my subject, so what it basically means is that this is my inverse function. And the way we'd write this is we would say f minus 1 of x, and because there's an x here, rather than write y here, we're just going to write x. And we should see here y as 1 works. So the opposite of timesing by 3 and adding 2 is going to be to take away 2 and then divide by 3. You can see that the opposites of one another. Let's try it again. Again, we're not getting too hard right now. So changing this subject. First step, just to make it a bit easier, we're going to replace the f of x with a y. Next, you want to get x by itself. So first, the opposite of dividing by 13 will be timesing by 13. So 13y equals 7x. And then the opposite of timesing by 7 will be dividing by 7. So x will equal 13y over 7. Then this here is going to be my inverse function. And just like we did last time, rather than write it with a y, we're going to write it with an x. That's all there is to it. I'll just go through 2 more slightly harder examples. So here your first step is replace the f of x with a y. And we're then going to get x by itself. So opposite of dividing by 3 is timesing by 3. Next I have a plus 2. The opposite of plus and 2 is minus and 2. So that should be a 5x up there. And lastly, the opposite of timesing by 5 is going to be dividing by 5. So 3y minus 2 all over 5 equals x. And then we're done. This is my inverse function. And for my final step, we need to write this and replace the y back with an x. So 3x minus 2 all over 5. Okay, so just got one more example to go through here. And that's function here, so it works a bit differently. So again, first step, rather than write f of x, we can write a y. We then want to make this x equals. Again, how I solved it earlier, I'll tell you first step, probably to make life easier, is taking this 2x across to the other side. So opposite of minus 2x is plus 2x. So we now have 2x plus y equals 6. Next, I want to get rid of the plus y. Opposite of plus y is minus y. And lastly, to get x by itself, we need to divide it all by 2. And then we're done. That's my inverse function. Remember, as always, to replace the y with an x. Okay, that's all I've got for you in today's video. Hope it was useful, and thanks for listening.